Hello, welcome into the ASUG News Studio. My name is Tom Whalegum, and we are back here live from Sapphire Now and ASUG Annual Conference 2015. Well, we're delighted to have Soren Hastrup back into the studio. We last talked to him at Tech Ed and Decode in Las Vegas. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we're going to be talking about Telesto Group's new methodology for SAP's Application Lifecycle Management. So first off, before we dive into that, what does Telesto Group do?
Well, Telesto Group really historically for the last 15 years been focused on really supporting our customers kind of from end to end, but in the last few years really start focusing in on the application lifecycle management. And really our goal is simple: how can we help you run your SAP business better?
Do you think customers have a good enough awareness about application lifecycle management? I guess you wouldn't probably have a business if they did, but
no, I think that's ultimately the issue. As we heard Bill McDermott talk about today, simplifying the process is from a customer experience perspective is the goal. Underlying all of that is how do we actually manage these applications? How do we manage the process from the day we take the requirements into the day we retire the system? So that's what we focus on. How can we do that better, and how can we do that more simply?
I love that you were able to reference Bill's keynote, because that was a big theme, right? Getting rid of that complexity and doing the simplify. Do you see yourself really fitting into that space as SAP goes forward?
Absolutely. I don't think there's anything. I mean, our focus is not implementing the technology. There's plenty of system integrators out there that does a fantastic job at that. Our job is to try to figure out with the customer, how can we simplify the way you run SAP, the way you manage your applications, the way you interact with your customers in a more simple framework instead of a complex framework.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, you've got a new methodology, as I mentioned at the outset.
That is
You're very
correct.
proud of it. We actually have a great diagram of that today. Walk us through a little bit for a customer who maybe doesn't know what this is and why this is so special.
Well, we think when we look at the application lifecycle processes today that most companies really address those in a fractured way. So what we're trying to do is take a little bit of a step back and help customers inside their context in the world that they live in every day to really quickly identify where are you. So that's like kind of a step one. So how do we do that? We actually use, and we have that here, kind of a visual approach to that to tie all those together. So the first step, as we say, is really identifying where you're at.
Do a lot of companies have challenges with that? They don't know where they're at?
They really don't. So if you look at CMMI or methodologies to try to measure where you are in a process sense, most customers would really not understand where they're at. They know it's working somehow, but they cannot identify are they at level 1, level 2, 3, or 4, where they're at. So that's what we try to help get to very quickly initially.
So after level 1, then what happens next?
Well, what we're trying to do, once we're identified inside your context, where are you and where your people are at, and the people aspect of this is just as important, we then go into really a quick and a simple approach for how to prioritize your next step. And again, we look at the entire process, not just testing, not just requirements management, but really how can we look at your entire picture and figure out what is really best for you in your context right now.
And how do those discussions typically go? Is it a light bulb goes off when you guys start really getting them to look at what they are doing, what they have been doing, and how they can do it differently?
Yeah, so typically we'll come in, and most of the engagements we have focused on so far, we come in and once we start actually putting this in a visual picture for our customers, they start understanding what this is all about. And that's where the discussion starts, and that's when we can start also prioritizing with them what's the next steps.
So when do those benefits start rolling in for them? What usually happens inside a company when it's actually working, when this application lifecycle management framework is working?
Well, when it's working, and we really have not had a customer this is not working, the benefit starts day one, because the first issue is if you don't know where you're at, how do you even know where to go in the future? And Bill even talked about that today. How can we learn from the past and go into the present and then down into the future? So that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
And then you typically launch into other conversations? Is this like when they start digging around and finding stuff, then it leads to?
Yeah, so what we have found is, and we have one customer here this week that is doing a couple of showcases of our work and laying that out. And we started with them really focusing in on testing, Then we start getting into other areas. Some of them we help them with. In other areas they did it themselves and really more self-guided. And in a third area, they brought in other companies to help them. So again, this is not about us doing everything, but it's getting a holistic approach to how we address these ALM complex issues in a more simple way.
And this is what we talked about, the context application lifecycle
Yeah.
management. This is the whole point of that.
That is exactly the point of driving benefits and getting priorities set and budgets and people aligned so that you have one-stop shop, so to speak.
Right. So who is the typical person who you are engaging with? Where does the Telesto get into a company?
Well, we think the successful way where we have seen this being rolled out in a broad scale is really dealing with the CIOs or the VP of IT or the director of the application management group.
Yep.
Wherever that kind of lies in the company, that ultimately is where it lies. If we're just dealing with an application manager of one application, obviously this is not a holistic framework anymore. Right. So that is our goal.
Well, I think the company, the message about reducing the complexity and simplicity really couldn't be better timed. Did you guys plan this with SAP, or is it just working out nice?
No, it's just simply working out that way that we saw for 20 years. Personally, I've been doing SAP. We have seen this complexity. We see the application landscape getting more complex, even with HANA, with mobility, with the old ECC landscape. To have all these components in there and how we're really managing this in a way we can govern this successfully.
Great. Well, Soren, thank you very much for coming. It was a pleasure to talk to you again. I'm glad you brought in the visual. I'm glad we were able to use that.
Yep, thank you so much, Tom, and I appreciate it.
Can't wait to see you again at the next year, and we'll talk about some more customer successes.
Yep, thanks for the opportunity.
For more customer stories, please go over to asugnews.com.